Hey, everybody, welcome back to the One Thing podcast. I'm Chris Dixon, and today I'm talking to Finnian Kelly. And Finnian is the founder of Intentionality, Inc., a sought after speaker, high performance coach, a master breathwork facilitator. Finnian's helped to change world leaders by implementing his intentionality methodology to find new levels of fulfillment and growth in their creative endeavors, relationships, and overall well being. Finnian has a new book coming out next month. It is Intentionality, a groundbreaking guide to breath, consciousness, and radical self-transformation. Thanks so much for being here today, man.
Chris, it's a pleasure. Let's see where this goes, hey?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me ask the big question. What got you into this? Like, how did you end up focusing on this and getting started in this place?
If you look at a lot of people's great tales, it's generally because of a deep need of what they needed themselves. That was really what happened for me. Was a series of events occurred where I couldn't live in the illusion any longer. I had to really face that there's more to me than just the things that were appearing on the surface. And there was a lot of coding from younger years that were affecting my current day decisions. Even though I thought I was making conscious decisions, I wasn't making conscious decisions. They were habitual programs. So really going through this period of, I suppose, a deep awakening for myself when, okay, I need to really understand how the mind works. What is consciousness? Why do we have this tool of breath that can help drive things? And how do I take real accountability for my life so I can get the transformation what I wanted? And then after I went on my personal journey, naturally what happens is our energetic fields start rubbing up on other people's, and people go, oh, you've changed. What's happened there? Can you help me with something? And I'd start just helping and sharing from my own experience. And before I knew it, a lot of people just kept saying, wow, you're the intentionality guy. Like that's who you are. And after enough people point out something about yourself, you start reflecting, going, maybe that is who I am, and maybe that's my gift to the world now. And I feel in a really privileged place in my life right now because I have full alignment in my life, and that really is rare. And it's all because of this one word, intentionality.
Maybe a tough question to put it on like a bumper sticker, but when people reflect back to you that you're this person of intentionality, how do you think they're defining it, or how would you maybe define intentionality so we can create some center place?
So I actually believe my definition came from some of those people's reflections back to me. So what they were reflecting back to me is that you're not just talking this, you're actually doing it. And it seems to be very clear. You have clarity, and then your actual actions line up with it. And now what I've identified as what I've sort of declared as the definition is it's identifying how you want to feel and then taking incremental steps towards making that a reality. So it's that combination of where are you going, but what are you actually going to do to make it happen? But the real key thing is it's a feelings first approach. So the idea is so often we've been focused on goals, but goals they're arbitrary. They're sometime in the future. And the only thing that matters is in the present moment. And the only thing that exists in the present moment is a felt perception. And most of the time that we're trying to avoid that felt perception. So I tried to flip it around and go, well, let's actually work out the feelings first and then make all our decisions built around that. And that seems to be, well, I actually know it from experience. That's the real differentiating part of this methodology from what other people have probably shared about intentions before.
I love that. I find I do a lot of coaching and facilitation and the model of the one thing and the approach, and something that which is a very goal centered model. We talk a lot about like, what do you want to accomplish? And I've found that over time, I've gravitated more and more and more to, in parallel to, what are these things you want to accomplish? Like, who is this person that you want to become? And how does that actually enable you to accomplish the things that you want to, but you come first from like the person. And I love what you're saying, because it's like, how can you identify the person you are if you aren't aware of what you're feeling? And so it almost feels like a more connected way to come from that same approach.
It is. And I love your reflection, Chris. I have the similar journey. I've been advising people on their financial journeys since I was 16 years ago, and then been coaching for a long time. And after I built enough people's wealth where they reached their financial freedom, financial security number, I identified that was just was a made up number a lot of the time. And they got
Mm.
there and then they said, oh no, I still don't feel secure and I still don't feel safe. And I realized, so the whole time what you've been really wanting to feel is safety and security. And you thought that a number would give that to you, but that's secondary. You actually, the feeling is an innate feeling. And I used to say a lot of the time, like, security breeds insecurity, because if you go after security and then in the future, when you build that money up, you're then going to be worried about how you're going to lose it. And that's when I went, it's all about feelings first. And we have to fix that feeling now. And then you can start going, okay, what are some goals and outcomes that actually help you get that?
Mm. So there's a begin with the end in mind approach, kind of reverse engineer. Like, what is the feeling of the life that you want? Like the overall, I guess, way that you're expressing yourself, and then work your way backwards from there to the steps you need to take in the shorter term to build that base.
Yeah, and also what it does is it allows flexibility, because often when we set goals, we're often operating from our limited construct of our present state of awareness. And I'll share certain reflections. There'll be certain things where I had no idea that it was possible to charge what I'm doing now or have the impact that I'm doing now a few years ago. So all those goals would have been completely irrelevant. I actually would have limited myself, because I would have gone, well, I've reached my goal, but instead I wanted to feel energized. I want to feel impactful. I want to feel inspired. And that kept me going. And now I'm actually surpassing things that I didn't know was possible. It also, often we have a belief that this goal is what we really want. And then we get so focused on the goal that it doesn't go exactly the way it wants. However, we're still such in a better position, especially financially. And we're so focused that we didn't get their goal, and we miss out on that we actually are so much better than where we were. And then we think we've lost things. And we see that with people with financial returns all the time. Say their portfolio went from 1 million to 10 million. They couldn't believe that they built that much wealth. And then it suddenly dropped to $7 million. They go into scarcity because they feel like they've lost 3 million, even though that's so much better than they ever thought. And that's when I went, this doesn't work. This formula that we've been running off isn't really helping us. It's not making us feel more peace, love, and joy.
It makes sense. What was the point in your own journey that you recognized this? I know, if I understand, you were in the military for a while as an
Yes.
officer, and I can imagine there's some triggers that could come from that kind of environment. When did this happen for you?
So when it really happened for me was when I had, when I was starting as an entrepreneur, I mapped out this perfect vision for my life. And I said, all right, when I do this and have this and achieve this, I'm going to feel, I know I'm going to feel content and satisfied and happy and fulfilled and everything. And I mapped it all out, and we were very intentional. We set out a structure. It was a 5-year plan to sell a company, move overseas, travel, ski, be financially free. And we did all of that. And we got there and we were living in our dream life, and the feeling never came. The feeling of what I was hoping of, suddenly I'd feel whole, I'd feel natural, and I'd feel at peace, didn't came. And that's when the illusion came crashing down. And in that period, I didn't have the awareness to think, it was the illusion came crashing down. Then all my saboteurs, my subconscious programs started coming through, and I effectively blew up my life and lost it all, because my core wound was abandonment. And so if your core wound is abandonment, eventually that's what you have to do. You have to get to the place where you learn from that and transition. But I wasn't paying attention to the signs. So spirit effectively picked me up, smashed me on the ground, and went, are you going to wake up? Are you going to pay attention now? And eventually, after everything, I sort of looked at my life, which I'd built, and it suddenly was dismantled so quickly. I went, okay, maybe I'm the common denominator here. Maybe I have to take some ownership and realize that this isn't happening by chance, and start understanding how my mind works, what's driving me to make these decisions. Is these things that I thought I wanted even what I wanted? And that's when I went on this radical self-exploration. That's really where breath came into my life. And through that, I just started going, okay, I'm going to take radical self-responsibility in order to get that radical self-transformation. And it's amazing how much more freedom and liberation I have now. Now, that doesn't mean I still don't come up against myself. It's never ending. I come up against myself all the time. But the difference is I catch myself a lot quicker. I'm more aware. I can laugh at it. And I don't allow myself to do the sabotaging behavior to the extent that I used to. And that's really the journey for me.
And the recognition of some of those early signals, or the awareness that you maybe are starting to go to a path where you might be sabotaging yourself, is that, do you get that from reflection, and is that connected to the breath work that you do?
Yeah, there's a few ways. So one is, it's all comes back to the feelings. If you're not
Mm.
feeling your desired feelings, and you're feeling low vibrational feelings, you're restless, you're dissatisfied, you're in fear, scarcity, whatever it is, it's a sign that something's not in alignment, because we are divine, powerful beings. And we're meant to be in a high state. We're meant to be in this place of love and peace and joy. So that's the first cue. Another cue is, whoa, I keep saying I want this, but I keep doing something else. My actions keep lining up. I keep saying I want to be integrity in my relationship, but I can't keep finding myself out of integrity. I want to keep being disciplined with my finances, but I'm not. That tells me that something's out of alignment. It tells me that your conscious mind might go, yes, I want to live a different way, but you have a subconscious program, which is a lot more powerful than your conscious mind, which is always coming up against yourself. So if you have that feeling of banging your head up against a brick wall, spinning loops, when we hear this in the language, we hear it in people's language all the time, it's the cue. That's when you go, oh, maybe there's something happening below the surface that I'm not aware of that's dictating my life. And that's really the first start of transformation, is to bring awareness. And I also do it through journaling practices. I just write down and I go, what's happening for me? And then I look back over themes over the last few months, and I might not realize that I've been writing the same thing consistently over that period of time. And then it goes, oh, maybe there's something here. Also, really close relationships. I was just with a friend last night, and we have a brotherhood where we reflect back to each other, and we're very feel very safe for the other person to share things back that we're feeling or experiencing from them, knowing that it's from a loving place. And often it's very obvious to everyone else that something's happening, but when the program is running, you're not aware, because that's the nature. The program's running, you're out there, not actually focused on it. So you need other people to reflect this back, and that's why group work is so powerful as well.
Yeah, and being vulnerable enough to hear the feedback when it's coming from the people that you involve in this, or even if you haven't intentionally brought them into it, recognizing that they're trying to offer you that feedback.
Definitely. And that's one of the hardest things, because the ego rises up in that moment, and we hate feeling like we're being wrong or being judged. So we need to make sure we're in a very safe container. The person who's providing that information, they don't really, it's like, I almost say, like when I coach people, I go, look, I just love you unconditionally. There's nothing you can do that's going to make me ever judge you or think you any less of you. Now, that doesn't mean sometimes I'm not going to laugh at the situation or the creativity of how you've got yourself into this situation, because I think bringing some laughter to it is great, but I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing with you. And that's something which I think is very refreshing, because so often we feel like everyone's judging us, and if we expose ourselves, then no one's going to like us, or we're not going to feel seen or understood. So we rather protect ourselves. And so we live in all these gray zones, all these little white lies all the time, and we think we're protecting other people, but really we're protecting this part of ourselves which is so scared to expose ourselves to who we really are, and expose others to who we really are too.
There's like a nuclear size bunker that can get built around some of those things that I know I've experienced and seen others, and so it can be tough, right, to dig into that programming or the sub program that you talked about, and there's a big wall there. And how have you seen, or how do you recommend people start on that journey, if to bring awareness to what it is and break that wall down?
Yeah, it comes back to really just being completely honest. And it's not necessarily honest with other people, it's just honest with yourself. First, like doing some form of reflection practice, being aware, calling out the parts of you, not shaming them, but actually just calling them out. Oh, for example, myself, I have a part of me which is an optimizer. Now, this optimizer has done a lot of great things in my life. It's meant that At parties are always magical when I throw them. When we put on events, they're always really beautiful because I'm always thinking how we can make this better. And my friends love the optimizer. However, sometimes the optimizer goes into overdrive and he can't appreciate any situation because he's wondering, oh, how do I make this better? And also, how do I capitalize on this opportunity? Because it might go to waste. Because when I was very young, I was always fearful, oh, this will never happen again. This is a one-time only opportunity. And it puts me in a tailspin. It's hard for my partner sometimes because I'm not present. So now what I do is I call the optimizer. I've given him a little name. It's called Opie the optimizer. And I reflect, oh, Opie's coming up again right now. He's here. And I actually share with my partner, I just want to let you know, this is what Opie's saying right now. So then she's aware, oh, this isn't actually who I am. There's a part of me which is feeling really exposed and really, really vulnerable. And we don't shame that part. Instead, we go, oh, does Opie want to go on a little fishing trip or have a little relax, go for a surf right now? Like we're in Panama right now. I'm like, oh, Opie, go for a little surf and relax. And that just relaxes us because all our parts have been there for a reason. Like they've been there to protect us for some reason. And when we try to shame them or try to dissolve them, that's another big illusion that people have. Like we want to dissolve the ego. We can't dissolve the ego. That's the ego even saying that, dissolving the ego. We have to work with it and embrace them and love them and just tell them, oh, you can relax now. I'm conscious. I'm here. I'm making the decisions that are best for us right now.
It's a skill to be able to separate yourself from your thoughts or your programming. And I love what you do, the Opie the optimizer. I mean, you even like separate it so much that you give it its own his own name, and then you can create like some awareness between other people around it.
But, it is, and the separation is right, Chris. That's great, spot on. We have to start realizing that we're not our thoughts, we're not our feelings. We're something behind it. We're the observer. And this is where the breath is so powerful because when we take a breath, it brings us into the present moment. It grounds us. It also reduces cortisol through our body, relaxes us. It lowers the frequency of our brain waves, perhaps from beta down to alpha, relaxes. And it just gives us this moment of pure stillness and alignment. And when we're focusing on the breath, we can then start observing, oh, wow, there's a lot of sensations coming up in my body right now. There's a felt perception. Oh, I've got some tightness in my chest. Oh, what's happening? There's anger. And you start realizing, oh, this is just an energy that wants to come through. You start calling this out rather than thinking, I am angry. You just go, oh, there's some anger coming through. And if we actually just feel it and use the breath to feel it, move it through us, it can pass through us. And we might never have to really deal with it again. But we have such an aversion to feeling that we then try to do anything but feel, which ultimately makes us feel worse for a longer time. That's the great paradox of this situation.
I have a special personal connection to breath work and a little bit of a different application, but I'll share some personal experience. I used to skydive professionally, and when I was younger, and was on the U.S. skydiving team, and we used to travel around and compete. And I'll never forget, like, part of our routine at my team, we're a 3-person team, and we would do this routine together. And before we'd exit the airplane, we'd do some collective breath work together just to kind of slow everything down, become present, and try to, because there's a lot of stuff going on in your head before you jump out of an airplane, even if you do it all the time. And we'd do this just to get our heads right. And I've taken that away. I mean, I don't skydive much anymore, and I haven't really for years, but it's something I still do today. And I know there's better and more enhanced and more connected ways to do it, which you know much more than me, but I still find myself going back to that practice when I need to kind of reset and just get myself clear to bring some awareness to like how I'm feeling.
It's amazing. And what I love about this, Chris, is that was a life or death situation for you. Right. Because if you make the wrong decision in that situation, it can result in death. So you practice, you use the breath, it brings us down in the present moment. Then what happens is you're not thinking, you're observing what needs to occur, and you actually allow insights just to come through. Suddenly you're like, well, I know what to do. I just jump because I've been in that experience. Something doesn't go with my parachute right. I just automatically go back to my training. But if we're thinking about it, we'll start worrying, oh, am I going to pull this the right way? And would actually cause complications. So often we don't realize that every moment in life is life and death situations.
Mm.
It's either you're choosing life or you're choosing a death. And it might not be a physical death, but a psychological death, because you're almost disowning yourself or disconnecting yourself and starting to lie from yourself. And then what we're doing then is we're creating these false identities. So it'd be a beautiful practice if we were in that similar state before every interaction with any person. We dropped in and just did a little bit of breath. Right now, I noticed at the start of this meeting, I just rushed and there was a few things going wrong with the computer and I forgot to breathe. And I was a little bit flustered at the start of this session. And then as we were talking about breath, I started just going, okay, maybe I should start paying attention to my breath. And I started observing my breath. I started feeling my presence down into the earth, starting getting connected to the ground. I started feeling the energy in my hands. And I started realizing, okay, now I'm connected to the field. And now I'm connected to the field. I don't need to think about what I'm saying. I just trust whatever's meant to come through will start coming through. And I guarantee if the listeners go back and listen back from the start of this podcast to the rest of this podcast, they'll know a noticeable shift at this point of time where I did it. They'll feel it. There'll be an energetic sensation. You'll notice I'm starting to lean in now because we're engaged. I'm now connecting to your field. And I also know you're doing that as well because you're breathing with me too. And now magic starts happening. We can go to a place where we don't know we even had that in us. And we start reflecting back to things. And before we know it, we're in a conversation that neither of us could have planned. And that's where the magic is, because you don't want what's just in my head. I don't want what's in your head. I want the intelligence to come through us and be this channel for great insights. And if more people started practicing communicating in that way, magic can happen.
Yeah, I naturally start to go to the impact you can have on other people as an influence when you start to, I guess, think and bring yourself to this place, because you can be like a conduit for higher level thinking.
Did you read that somewhere in my writing at all, Chris?
No, I promise.
It's funny. So someone wrote that as a testimonial for me, that he is a conduit, not a prophet.
Oh.
And it was very important to me because that is exactly it. Prophets think that they are the ones who are coming up with this stuff. Mm-hmm. And conduits just go, oh no, we're just a vessel for this intelligence to come through, and we're a reflection back to your presence, and presence comes through me. And before we know it, we're communicating in a language we didn't really know. So it just feels really nice that you managed to bring that up at a point where we were just saying that things were going to come through that we didn't know were possible. And that's exactly the case. And that's the thing with coaching, for example. When I coach or I facilitate, I go, you're not like paying for my experience and my intelligence. What you're paying for is my presence. And I'm going to be present with you. And because of that, you're going to start being honest with yourself. And insights are going to come through that then we can work with. And that's when we get the opportunity for the real transformation. And it's never... Like, I was in a conversation with a friend just the other day, and I just knew there was an opportunity for a breakthrough with him. And I just kept reflecting back things that I'm just hearing from him, observing from him. And then it just suddenly, you saw the little opportunity, this little moment to unlock the code. And we went for it. And before he knows, he went, wow, I can't believe I've been keeping this lie to myself and these other people. It's not even that big a deal, but it's been creating all these other decisions for the rest of my life. And now he has the opportunity for liberation. Now, there is going to be a moment, he said, well, I do feel a bit of unease doing this. And I went, of course you're going to feel uneasy. Like, if it was easy, you would have already done it before. But once you move through that unease, liberation, peace, freedom, joy is going to be on the other side, because now you're making decisions free from the past. But most of us are just continuously just making decisions based on a past decision or perspective that may not have been accurate.
I think this is such an important skill for leaders, and even without. But if you're leading an organization, you're building a business, becoming aware of your state and the impact you're having on others, and how you can create an environment where you, like we talked about, being a conduit where this kind of energy can run through your team. I think there's just something really special to consider there. And I'm curious if you've seen how this has impacted teams through your teaching and experience.
It has, Chris. So I love how you use the word energy. So one of the statements I say when I give a keynote is we don't need more time. We need to get better at decision making.
Mm.
And the reason why that is that one, we all have the same amount of time, but some people seem to go through their time with ease, and other people are all flustered, always distracted, and challenged. So it's not a time construct, but the decision making is what gives us more time. Because if you can make a decision quickly and it's the right decision, then it means you don't cause a lot of conflict for yourself. You're not wasting time procrastinating and making decisions, or you don't waste time going down the path which isn't the accurate path. And how do we get better decision making? Is we focus on our energy. We need to be in the right energetic state in order to make a decision. If you are in a low vibrational state, you're in a place of fear, for example, literally you become dumber. What happens is our sympathetic nervous system gets activated, and then our blood flow starts going to our extremities in order for us to run, because that's literally what we feel like we're doing. We think it's a life or death situation. So we run, and the blood flow stops going to our brain, and we get more focused, tunnel vision, and we can't see the bigger picture. So we need to make sure that we are a more an expansive, loving place in order to make decisions. We also need to realize that our energetic fields are rubbing up on every single person that we interact with. And we know this because you've all experienced it when someone has walked into a room and you didn't even see them, and you just suddenly went, oh, what has happened? Like, you just felt yuck. It was like the energy got sucked out of the room because they were really negative, low vibrational, and sucking it out. And then there's other people who walk in and they say hi to you, and you're just like, whoa, I feel amazing, because their energetic field is so expansive. So we know this is happening, and this is happening all the time in leadership team meetings. And before you know it, you come in with some form of fear program, which might have been activated by something at home or something on news. You bring that into team meeting. You then start being short with people, acting out, getting really focused on things that aren't that important. That then resonates across everyone else. And before you know it, it's resonating across the whole organization. So a really important thing that we get people to do is to always focus on, are you bringing in the right energy for this situation? We have this one tool, and you can access all our tools on our Intentionality app. But there's one tool which is like the meeting tool, and there's a few questions there. Is like, what's your intention for the meeting? What would be a successful outcome? Do we have the right people in order to make it, like, to get this outcome in the room? And also, what's the energy that we need for this meeting? And if we don't have that right energy, there's no point having that meeting, because you're doing worse than wasting people's time. You're wasting people's energy, and it just ripples through organizations all the time. So what we really focus on is just going, okay, let's change the time paradigm. Like, one of the greatest things, I literally did this for a client the other day who was just like, I don't know how I can get more time in the day. And I went, well, what are all your standard meetings in your Google Calendar? And they went 1 hour. And I went, okay, so what do most of your meetings go for? 1 hour. I went, what would happen if we just changed every meeting to half an hour? And she went, it's pretty funny. I could try that. Before she knew it, she had 10 hours back from that. Then we looked at other meetings and we went, how many standing one-on-one meetings do you have? I have 10 every week. So that's 10 hours every week. And I went, okay, what would happen if we just went to one every 2 weeks, or made them half an hour every week? What would happen? And she went, you know what? I don't even think I need half of these anymore, because they'd just been operating on this program. And before she knew it, suddenly she had this huge capacity in her calendar, and now she's making decisions that will drive the business forward. All because she went, you know what? I'm going to focus on energy rather than time.
Mm. I've always said, like, your calendar ends up like your garage or like your closet. I mean, it just gets filled with stuff, and you gotta go through and clean it out every once in a while, because there's a bunch of things you don't need, like meetings, for
Totally.
sure. I
Yeah.
was gonna ask you, like, there's a lot of different framework and models and things around, like, how you prep for a meeting. At the one thing, we big vision, small focus. I'm always helping people ask that question, like, what's the one thing you want to accomplish in this meeting, or think that way. But I think there's the other side of that coin, which I really love, is like, how is your energy? Like, how are you showing up, and what kind of energy do you want to bring to the meeting? And there's just something super valuable there. 'Cause I notice it even in myself. Sometimes I'm like, oof, I might have not be in the right mindset going in here. I've got the boxes checked on what I want to accomplish, but how am I really like radiating as I come in, and like, what's the vibe that I'm giving, even if it's virtual, like, to this meeting, because that has equally as much impact as it does on what you say you want to do.
Oh, it certainly does. It's if we start realizing the world, and we know this now through science, it's the world's pretty much holographic. It's a reflection of what is inside for us. So it means that everything we experience is a direct interpretation from our internal state.
Mm-hmm.
So that means if we aren't in a great place, then we're going to have a ripple effect on everyone else. So I'm very aware that if I'm in a bad place, I can do so much destruction. I have a very strong, powerful, energetic field, and people are used to that. So if I'm in a place where I'm just quiet, people start making assumptions that I'm angry or I'm negative. So I've had to work through with my friendships, for example, where I've just shared with them, because I started wondering why they concerned or anything. I'm like, I'm completely fine. I'm just having a bit of me time. So now I let them know that I'm turtling, like I'm putting my head into my turtle cage, and it's nothing about them. I just need a little bit of me time, but I still want to be in their fields. And that's really helped them as well. So often just letting people know what's going on for you can be an absolute gift, because we know what are we doing most of the time. We're so consumed about our own story. We're wondering what's happening. What does this mean for me? And we're always guessing and interpreting. And that's a whole lot of waste of energy, because it means we're not focusing on what we need to be doing. We're focusing on how people are interpreting us, how people are defining us. So we can help each other in a team dynamic to start sharing, oh, this is where I'm at right now. This is my current state. This is what I need. And then the other person go, oh, I can give that to you or I can't. And we work it out together rather than guessing. And this is so important in intimate relationships as well. It's so unfair, something that can trigger you, which may have had nothing to do with your partner, but then because the partner is always, we're so vulnerable in our relationships, we always think we've done something wrong. And then they can go create a story, and before we know, we have conflict when it was never actually about us or either of us.
It's like some needed, I don't think ownership's the right word, but there's like a responsibility or an expectation around consistency with your energy level, and taking some ownership and knowing it's like, you know what, I'm kind of off median right now in one direction or another. And if I could outwardly communicate that so people aren't guessing why, that merges the gap. So you don't have people off, like they're not present because they're now thinking like, what am I doing to create this whole thing? And now you've just shut everybody down.
Yeah, and I like your responsibility part, because ideally what you do is you share it, but then when you share it, you hear yourself and you realize, maybe I need to do something about my own energy. Just because you've said I'm angry doesn't really give you the excuse to just project that onto everyone for the day. Instead, maybe you can go, oh, maybe I need to clear this. Maybe I need to do some breathing. Maybe I need to go for a walk in order to do this. And that's where it's bringing awareness. So I just call it out to help me actually bring my own awareness. And then through that practice, I go, oh, all right, I better go do something about this. So that's the higher step. Eventually you want to get to that place where you actually take responsibility for your energy.
Okay. So become aware of it.
Yeah.
Learn how to, I guess, maybe move the needle one direction or the other to influence it, and then take the responsibility to change it if you are aware of it.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Tell me a little bit more about the book, if you could, and is there anything in there that you think would be helpful to share today on like the structure or how you help people get started in this process?
I do. So the book is one of these great books where you're going to be taken on a journey, and you're going to learn through my experiences working with different people, and it's going to evoke a lot of different sensations within you. It's going to evoke different thoughts, but ultimately what I'm really trying to do is evoke different feelings. So you can identify, oh, this is perhaps some negative belief loops that are coming up for me. But then I take it one step further. I go, well, this is actually how you go through a process to really recode your mind in order to live a life of intentionality so you can get more peace, joy, and love. So the first start of it goes through a process of helping you understand effectively your operating system, your different minds, understanding your breath, your energy centers, your ego, and how this great, incredible intelligence is running. And it's something we never get taught. We get taught all these random facts at school, but we never actually get taught about the most incredible intelligence that we could learn. Then we go through a process of going, okay, most of our daily decisions are run by our subconscious. So we need to make sure that our subconscious is in alignment with our conscious mind and then universal mind, which is the field of intelligence. And how do we recode that? First, we go through a repetition process, identifying your belief loops, and then making sure you're doing the behaviors which will lead to your desired feelings. And then there's a more a powerful version, but doesn't mean that it's more important. It's just a powerful version, which is you can use energy interventions such as breath and medicine journeys and different modalities to help remove a negative belief loop in a very quick procession. And then I have a really great end, which is an accelerant to spinning up your positive belief loops in a more powerful way, which is a process which I call the scientific manifestation process, which is actually using physics, the understanding of the quantum world to consciously make a miracle, which is the manifestation process. So you can start realizing that everything that's happening in your life is a byproduct of you. And you can really start molding your reality once you learn these principles.
I got to ask you to dig in a little bit more there, if you don't mind. So touching on the quantum, I guess, substructure and how you can understand that to then manifest what are more positive belief loops in your kind of reality. Can you just dig in a little bit more there and tell me how that works for you?
Yeah, I definitely will. So it's the idea that we've all heard the formula of law of cause and effect, that when we have a cause, we have an effect. When we have A, it means we have B. When we have B, it means we have A. So I share the example of when you have ice, it means you have water. When you have water, it means you automatically have ice. When you have heat, it means you must have motion. If you have motion, it means you have heat. One can convert into the other. So when we understand that, we can also use this for other formulas. So when we have outcomes, the reason why we want a particular outcome is because we hope it gives us a feeling. That's really why we want a particular goal. We want this certain amount of money because we want it to feel free or feel secure. We want to lose this amount of weight because you want to feel healthy or strong or sexy, whatever it is. So one way to get something in your life is to focus on, well, what are all the steps in order to get that outcome? Let's map out the plan. Let's do the strategy. Let's do all those steps. And that's one way to get there. But that's operating in this 3D linear time constrained world. In the quantum world, there is no time and space. It's all just happening right now. It's just presence. And that means that when something occurs, it means we have the other. So using the word of law of cause and effect, if why we want the outcomes is because it gives us a feeling, and if we know we have the outcome, it means we have the feeling, we can also flip that and go, if we have the feeling, it means we have to have the outcome. So what we do is we go, well, let's focus on getting the feeling and feeling that in the place where there is no time or space, which is in the subconscious, in the quantum world effectively. And let's imprint on our subconscious that we have that feeling. And that the subconscious takes that feeling to be true, accesses the universal mind, and then makes that happen. And then we have to wait a period of time because it happens from the 5D quantum world into the 3D world. There's a time construct there before it materializes. And that's where all the great Napoleon Hills, Neville Goddard, Joseph Murphy's, they've all been talking about living the wish fulfilled. And that means it's like feel the state and then you have to have it. Now, where it goes wrong is people just think, oh, I'm just going to feel it and I'm not going to do anything. You still have to take the action. And this is the really key part of the scientific manifestation process, is you first clarify what it is that you want. You then conceive it, which is impregnating the subconscious with that feeling state. And then the third state is you need to claim it. You now need to feel grateful that you've received it. You need to pay attention to the insights that come through to you, which says, oh, go do this, call this person, and then act on those things. And then we start bringing that creation to us. And once you start playing with this formula, it's incredible what happens. I just had one the other day, and it was funny because we shared, it was a connection with Colin O'Brady, who I don't even know. I said I was coming to Austin, and we reflected, and you said, oh, that's the second time I've heard Colin O'Brady today. So that's a little bit of a sign. There's something there. You should explore that. But I've had for 10 years a manifestation running that on my 40th birthday, like in the year I was turning 40th, I wanted to go do the Grand Canyon river trip. And I've entered every lottery. Every month I go through the whole cycle. And I was just reflecting recently. I went, wow, I turned 40 this year. Maybe I'm not going to get this. Like, maybe it's not going to happen. And I went, you know what? That's okay. You can't ever control the time thing. Maybe I was just getting too focused on the time. I'm still 40 next year, it could happen then. And if it happens in the next couple of years, I don't mind. Completely forgot about it. I get a message from Colin the other day. He goes, call me. I've got an opportunity for you. And he rings me up and he went, hey, I've just been offered this all expenses paid trip to the Grand Canyon, and I can take it +1. And I thought of you straight away. And it's these dates. And it was the only dates that I had available this year.
No way.
And here I am now going on the Grand Canyon trip. This was better than my manifestation. Like, it's better than I could have ever believed. And it was because I did this manifestation a long time ago. I just surrendered it, but I was still taking the actions, and I couldn't have planned this magic. And that's how it starts happening. And it's miracles. And I call it making your miracles, because it's possible. You can start making miracles all the time. But most of the time, we're not paying attention to the little signs. And that's why I bring that awareness. Something's happening with Colin with you today. So what is it that you need to know from him? Like, what's the thing? Because you might reach out or something, and he might give you an insight. It was the thing that you needed to get for your miracle making.
Interesting. I turned 40 this year too, by the way. So happy early birthday. It's a big milestone.
Yeah, definitely.
It's something that I try to visualize. Like, it's almost like you're throwing a stone in this pond of intention, and you got to catch the ripples when they come back. And that's the actual taking action part. I mean, you can get these signals, but if you're putting it out there, you got to do something with what comes back your way.
It is. And most of us sabotage it all the time. We don't pay attention to the signs, or we actually are on track, and we get so focused on controlling, because we're always trying to control it, and it's not going the way we like it. So then we start being negative about it. We start pushing it away, and we don't realize, if you're just around the corner, you would have reached your miracle. And this was something I learned in the army, because the army used to play these tricks on us all the time. They would do these huge long pack marches where we're carrying, like 80-pound packs and everything, and we're going for really long distances. And we would reach the end after going 30 miles or whatever it was, and we'd be so excited we're reaching the end. And they went, oh no, the truck broke down. You have to go another 10 miles. And people would break down, like just devastated. And this was all for selection training, and people would just pull out. And just around the corner, the people who kept going, there was the truck. Mm-hmm. They didn't realize that everything was just around the corner, but they got so focused on that little destination, and it didn't go the way they liked, that they ended up sabotaging themselves, and it kills them for a really long time. They're just like, I can't believe I missed out on my opportunity. And what I've started reflecting a lot of the time now is that who am I to think that I am better than this universal mind of intelligence? And every time I start disliking something, questioning, judging, I'm effectively saying no to this intelligence and saying that I'm right. And I now have enough reflection after you look back and you went, yep, you were right again. I was looking through my limited construct at the time, but you had a bigger plan for me. You had a greater setup for me. And yes, it caused me some pain at that time, but really the suffering came from my set identity around it, my belief that it had to be a certain way. And if I'd actually let that go, it wouldn't have been such a negative experience for me. And that's something I talk about in the book, is that pain is a part of life, but suffering is optional. We don't actually need to suffer. And something where a lot of people get wrong in related to the Buddhist teachings, they think that desire is the problem. Desire isn't the problem. Desire is normal. Like, we can't get rid of desire. That's actually a human trait in order to grow. But the problem is it's our attachment to our desire. That's where all our suffering really comes through. So if we can release that attachment, go, yeah, of course I have that desire, but if it doesn't come through, I'm okay with it. That's when we get free, and that's when we get liberated.
So powerful. And it's like a combination of being a good listener and being adaptable to what you actually hear and find.
Yeah. And laughing at it all and just going, oh, yep, this is ridiculous. I didn't see this one, but here I am. And then enjoying that, because so often we don't see the miracles in the moment because we're so focused on living in the fantasy of the past, of this version that we created for ourselves. And we miss out on the magic that's happening all around us all the time. And this is why I say make your miracles, because you can literally make miracles every moment of your day if you just pay attention. If you look out and actually look at nature, it's a miracle all the time. If you spend a moment focusing after you eat and reflect on what is happening right now after you eat, all these organs are just consuming and breaking down all these nutrients without you having to put any energy or any thinking into it. And it's just happening. And then that gives you energy to be able to go run, climb, speak, whatever it is. And then it just gets released through a waste process as well. Amazing. The fact that I'm getting to talk to you right now in another part of the world, and we're having this great dialogue and we feel like in each other's rooms. Incredible. Like 20 years ago, people would be like, what is going on right now? It's miracles all the time, but we forget them. And if we can live in that state where we are literally observing the miracles, what starts happening, you start realizing how magical life is, and you start realizing that you are a magician. And you can make whatever miracles you want all the time. And then it starts becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. And you start wondering, and you're seeing those people who are just like, wow, everything's happening really well for them right now. It's because they're having an expansive human experience. They're expanding, and they're not so focused in their head. They're just going, all right, let's expand, let's explore this, and let's see how this journey takes us there.
It's like having a disposition for playfulness and fun and appreciation goes a long way. As simple as that sounds. I mean, it's just the default lens to kind of view the world that keeps you open to these opportunities.
Yeah, I agree. It's not by chance that you look at all the images of great wise sages and they've all got smiles on their face and they're laughing. Like, you look at the Dalai Lama, you look at Desmond Tutu, you look at the Buddha, like they've all got like belly laughs all the time because they think it's all hilarious. They laugh all the time at the incredible creativity of human beings and the magic around us, and realizing, wow, we don't need to take ourselves so seriously. Doesn't mean we're not doing serious stuff, but it means we don't have to take ourselves so seriously.
I think that's an important distinction. Well, Finian, awesome conversation, man. If you could to have the listeners take one thing away from all the cool stuff we've talked about today, what do you feel like it would be?
It would be the master key intention of intentionality, which is prioritize feelings over outcomes. It doesn't mean get rid of outcomes. It's prioritize feelings first. So if there was one thing that I'd love for you to do is wake up in the morning and go, how do I want to feel today? And connect to those feeling states. And then imagine yourself going through the day feeling those feelings. What would you need to do in order to feel those feelings? And then at the end of the day, reflect, how did you go against your desired feeling, your intention? And if there was times where you went, you know what, I behaved in an egoic way right then, which didn't lead to that feeling, the beautiful thing is you can just revise it. Literally go back in your imagination and relive that experience and do what would have led to that feeling. And what will happen is you'll start getting the feeling. Because the amazing thing is the mind can't tell the difference between it happening in the imagination or happening in real life. The same relationship happens in our body. And that's what the subconscious takes on as truth, is our feeling states. That's the only way the subconscious program gets directions. So take ownership for your feelings and start living a life which drives more of the feelings that you want. Doesn't mean you're not going to feel negative feelings. I love my anger. I love my sadness, all of them. But there's a way to allow that to pass through us so then we can get back to a natural state.
Great conversation, man. Thank you so much. If people want to learn more about intentionality, they want to find you on social, or they want to get the book, where can they do all those things?
So the best place for the book is intentionality.com, and that will have everything. It has all my social profiles there, and you'll be able to access a free breath, which is amazing. And I would just recommend go on that breath journey and read the book, and life will change. And it's always better if you can take someone on the journey with you. So do it with a partnership, and you'll be able to go on a great growth journey.
Cool, man. Thanks so much for doing this. It was a great conversation. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, bye, everybody.